This is the TQ HPR50, 50 Newton meters of torque, hence the name, and a claimed weight on their website of about 1.8 kilograms. And this is the Shimano EP8. This isn't the 01, so this is the original EP8. So in fairness to Shimano, I think that one's quieter, more refined, etc. So I'm comparing the TQ to the original EP8. 85 Newton meters of torque. I think the website on Shimano lists the weight at 2.7, 2.8 kilos. So it's roughly a kilo heavier than the TQ motor. And I also had to move the camera a bit further back to fit the EP8 in frame because it's a much bigger bottom bracket. Welcome to the channel, riders. This is a comparison / review of the TQ HPR50 motor, which is on the bike on the right, with the Shimano EP8, which is the bike on the left. Different motors, kind of like comparing David and Goliath, or a pickup truck and a hatchback, or even a horse and a deer. But if you have to choose, and the TQ motor has now become available on other brands like Scott as well as Trek, and that's your lightweight alternative to the full power, full fat Shimano EP8 on my left. And it's just to help you see the differences between the two motors and the interfaces and the apps, and it might help you decide in terms of the motor you prefer, but obviously still very much focus on the bike would always be my advice. Thanks for watching, riders. Let's get stuck into it. In terms of interface for the motors, what's good with Shimano and what some riders would prefer is you can customize. So for example, that, because it all just plugs in externally, you can change that. There's a number of different ones that you can mount, bigger screens, so you can customize it, even change them for different rides. Have a smaller display for maybe bike parks, and then a bigger one for obviously when you're out doing XC or enduro, or doing big trails. And you can also customize the remote in terms of the buttons to change the power. So a lot more customization with Shimano, and very easy to do as well, because it's very much plug and play externally. It all goes into the control unit there. So from that point of view, I think Shimano definitely an advantage for riders who like to be able to change and customize everything. The TQ, on the other hand, from what I can see on their website, there's not a lot to customize. So that is your power lever, and I'm not entirely convinced it's that well built, because I'm on my third at the moment. I've had the bike for over a year in the motor, but then you've got the built-in interface which is integrated into the frame, and again, I don't think there's any way of changing that from what I can see. Having said all that though, I don't think you need to. So in fairness to TQ, I think they've got that absolutely spot on, and as much as you can't really customize or change it, I really don't feel any need to. I think you've got everything you need built in the screen. In fact, it's not a big colourful thing, because you don't want distractions. It's just very sort of simple numbers, and you can change between power and speed and range, etc. So yeah, I think it's I don't think you need to change it, because they've got it kind of right anyway in that sense. But be aware of that if you like to change things or customize or have different aftermarket options. From what I can see, the TQ is very limited, if anything at all. Oh, yeah, that went. Oh my word. In terms of reliability, comparing the two, I should add for context, the TQ on my right is about 14-15 months old, and it's done 2,500 kilometers on the app. The Shimano EP8 on my left is about 6 months old, and it's done about sort of 1,200 by comparison, so newer motor. But so far, I mean, the TQ, I have to say, very reliable. It just works. I've had no issues with it at all. The EP8 similar, so far no issues.
Too big. Whoa. Oh, made it.
It's interesting, the TQ app doesn't actually give you the option to update the motor. It's just not there, whereas the EP8 seems to have all these updates, etc., and you can buy a special unit for, I think, over £200 to wire directly into it. But I'm not a fan. I think it's a motor. I don't see why it should need updates if you get the design right in the first place, test it properly. I'm not, yeah, I like the fact the TQ just works and I don't have to faff with it, and I haven't bothered doing any updates via the app for that one, because I'm just too worried it's going to cut off halfway through and then I've got to take it back to the bike shop. So now I'm nervous to do it, if you kind of understand that. So for me, the whole update thing, if it improves performance, yeah, I get the theory, but I just think it's a motor. It needs to work, be reliable, and get you up a hill. I'm not sure why you need updates via an app for that, really, if you get it right in the first place. That would be my point, I guess. Maybe that's naive.
Oh, I got the bonk.
In terms of power difference between the motors, I would only add, because you've got the specs, obviously 85 on the EP8 versus 50 on the TQ, but when you're riding it in terms of practical riding and the feel, I would say that feels 4 times more powerful, not because on paper it's less than half that. The actual ride feel is, well, I would say at least 4 times faster and more powerful, getting you up climbs and that sort of thing. In terms of technical climbing, so really steep or janky paths, or up sort of technical climbing, because you can have fun doing that on e-bikes, this is definitely as capable, I would say, because you don't have almost that extra power where it spins out, so you can keep better traction on this. I would suggest it's more natural. You don't get like the surge. It's much more linear, the power, but you are putting in a lot more effort to achieve the same thing. So it's kind of it's obviously more natural, and it will feel, a lot more effort, but I think it's as capable. I would argue that, but yeah, it's as capable as the rider. It's probably the best way to phrase that. In terms of range and efficiency, have to give it to the EP8, where you don't necessarily have the stealth or the elegance of the TQ. You do get a lot for that power, and although it's got twice the battery, I would say the range is 3 to 4 times that of the TQ in terms of practical riding and being able to keep it in boost mode. You almost see the power trickle down on boost mode on the sort of TQ if you're using on a very steep climb. So from that point of view, credit to Shimano and the EP8, they've got a very efficient system going on there, or it feels that anyway from that point of view. I do appreciate, if you're looking at these two different motors, you're probably looking at 2 different kinds of bikes in terms of half fat, full fat, but I thought it might help so you know what you're getting a bit with the TQ in terms of the experience and the interface versus the Shimano EP8. I'd definitely say the EP8 is your all-rounder motor. It's brutish, loud, but it's powerful and it seems very efficient, so it does what you need it to do. There's an elegance to the TQ motor. There's a stealth that's incredibly quiet, and it gives a much more natural feel. and it's that bridge motor, I would say, to get into e-biking, but you're still going to put in the effort, you're not going to have the range, so it will be limiting in that sense. But when you hit technical trails, that's when it's probably a bit more specialist, because you'll get that natural ride feel and not have kind of that weight and sort of almost too much power perhaps from the full fat in that sense. Anyway, thank you for watching, riders, and hope this helps anyone looking at 2 different motors. Always choose the bike would be my advice. Until next time, ride your bike. Yo!